Number 1. Alyssa Bustamante, age 15. Alyssa Bustamante murdered her 9-year-old neighbor, Elizabeth Olten, in Missouri, 2009. Bustamante slit Olten's throat and stabbed her before burying her in a pre-dug grave in a woodland. Bustamante attacked Olten when she was walking home from a friend's house. The trial was heard that Bustamante had severe psychological problems, a difficult family life, and previously had attempted suicide. Despite her mental health, she was tried as an adult and sentenced to life in prison. Bustamante stated that she murdered Olten to see what killing was like, and wrote in her diary later that day, "I just killed someone. I strangled them, and I slit their throat, and I stabbed them, and now they're dead. I don't know how to feel at the moment." It was amazing. Number 2. Joshua Phillips, age 14. Joshua Phillips was involved in one of the most shocking adolescent murder trials in history, after he murdered his 8-year-old neighbor Maddie Clifton. Maddie left her home at 5:30 p.m. to play basketball, but never came back. Joshua claims that he and Maddie were playing baseball and he accidentally hit her with the ball. Maddie started crying, and then Phillips claimed he panicked and hit her in the head to make her stop screaming. Phillips then carried Clifton's body to his house and hid her body under his bed. His mother found Clifton's body a week later due to the odor coming from his room. Phillips was charged with first-degree murder and sentenced to life without parole. Number 3. George Stinney, age 14. George Stinney was a 14-year-old boy from South Carolina. In 1944, Stinney was charged with the murder of 2 white girls, Betty June Binnicker, age 11, and Mary Emma Thames, age 7. Stinney, who was seen talking to the girls the day before their bodies were found, was soon caught in a media circus, which would see him convicted and executed in less than 3 months. Stinney was given the electric chair, making him the youngest person to be executed in such a fashion in the history of the United States. This specific case is extremely controversial. The prosecutor relied almost exclusively on one piece of evidence: the unrecorded, unsigned confession of a 14-year-old who was deprived of counsel and parental guidance, whose defense lawyer shockingly failed to call witnesses or to preserve his right to appeal. Family members of both Betty and Mary expressed the extreme disappointment in the court's ruling. They said although they acknowledged Stinney's execution at the age of 14 is controversial, they never doubted his guilt. The niece of Betty claimed she and her family did extensive research on the case and argues that people who just read these articles in newspapers don't know the full truth. The niece alleges that in the early 1990s, a police officer who had arrested Stinney had contacted her and said, "Don't you ever believe that that boy didn't kill your aunt?" There's lots of mixed stories behind this case, such as family members saying that they were with him during the time of the murder, or the reports about George that he's gotten into a lot of school fights, including fights where he scratched a girl with a knife. Some have even said that he's threatened to kill a girl and her friend the day before the murder, and he was a known bully in school. Number 4. Daniel Bartlam, age 14. Daniel Bartlam was just 14 years old when he killed his mother, Jacqueline Bartlam, in cold blood. On Easter 2011, while his mother slept, Daniel murdered her by hitting her several times with a claw hammer. Daniel set his mother's body on fire before ringing the police and reporting that a burglar had just killed her. Detectives soon noticed inconsistencies in Daniel's claims and searched his computer, where they recovered a deleted file which detailed his murder plans in the form of a story. Bartlam had no motive, but Jacqueline's former partner testified Daniel had a passion for violent films. The 14-year-old was sentenced to a minimum of 16 years in prison. Number 5. Eric Smith, age 13. Eric Smith was arrested in 1993, just 13 years old, for the murder of 4-year-old Derek Robbie. Smith lured Robbie into an isolated park and choked him. He proceeded to drop rocks on Robbie's head and finally sodomized him with a tree branch. Unbelievably, this was the first time Robbie's mother had ever let him travel alone. Robbie was walking a couple blocks to summer camp. Smith soon confessed to the murder and was sentenced to a minimum of 9 years. As of April 2014, Smith, who has been diagnosed with intermittent explosive disorder and was bullied as a child, has been denied parole 7 times. Number 6. Paul Henry Gingrich, age 12. Paul Henry Gingrich played a central role in the murder of Philip Danner, the stepfather of his friend Colt Lundy. The murder took place on the 21st of April 2010, when Lundy was 15 and Gingrich was only 12. The pair and their mutual friend, Chase Williams, also 12 years old, was planning to run away to Arizona together. Lundy knew that his stepfather would catch them, so Lundy hatched a plan to kill his stepfather. He enlisted his friend of Gingrich and Williams. Williams would later get cold feet and not participate in the murder. Lundy convinced Gingrich to follow through their plan, however. The two waited in Lundy's house for Danner to return home, shooting him 4 times in the chest while he entered the living room. Gingrich was recently sentenced to 30 years in prison, with the possibility of parole by the age of 18 if he engaged thoroughly through his rehabilitation program. The public's opinion is very much divided in the terms and the decision. Many state that Gingrich should be freed, believing that he was a victim of manipulation by the 15-year-old Lundy, while others believe he should be tried as an adult. Number 7. Mary Bell, age 11. In 1968, 11-year-old Mary Bell murdered 2 boys in the town of Scotswood in northeast England. The boys were named Martin Brown, age 4, and Brian Howe, age 3. Bell strangled Martin in an abandoned house. A few months later, Bell, with the help of her friend Norma Joyce Bell, who were actually not related, strangled Brian Howe in the same fashion. The girls also mutilated Howe's body and cut an M into his stomach. Bell was imprisoned until 1980, where she was controversially released with a new identity. Bell has talked anonymously about her acts, citing sexual abuse at an early age that caused her criminal behavior. Number 8. John Venables and Robert Thompson, both age 10. John Venables and Robert Thompson were the murderous duo who became the perpetrators of one of the most notorious murders in British history. In 1993, 3-year-old James Bulger was waiting for his mother outside of a butcher shop in a shopping mall. Bulger was lured by Venables and Thompson while his mother was distracted. The boys brought Bulger on a long walk along a canal, and during this time they were spotted by almost 40 separate witnesses. All witnesses claimed that they believed Bulger to be their younger brother. The pair went on to subject Bulger to physical and sexual assault, then dumped Bulger's body on some railway tracks and covered him with stones. Bulger was later hit by a train. His body was discovered 2 days later. Venables and Thompson were cutting school at the time of the murder. They were linked to the murder after they were spotted on the mall's CCTV with Bulger. The boys were tried in adult court and placed in rehabilitation units. They were controversially released under very tight parole agreements in 2001. The motive behind the killing is still unknown, though at the time many public figures asserted that the boys were influenced by violent movies. Hey everyone, this is Lyric from Best List. I hope you guys enjoyed my first video like this. Please comment below what you think my next video should be, and subscribe if you enjoyed this content.